Jainism. Welcome to Adults Class 2, Practical Applications of Jainism. Let's start with the no karma mantra. Namo Aryantada, Namo Siddha, Namo Ayarya, Namo Vijayana, Vesasamana, Isar Panchamukha, Sarva Bhava Panasano, Kalavancha Sarvesim, Paramam Havamangala. So last week we talked about 12 mental obstacles that prevent us from reaching our goals. And we left off with the cliffhanger, is what do any of them have to do with Jainism? So what does any mental obstacle have to do with Jainism? Excuse me. Well, your religion should be working for you, right? Your religion should be making your life better. We should demand as much from our religion. And so if your religion doesn't help you with these things, it's not a very good one, right? So Jainism can help you with all of these mental obstacles. So this time I would like to try to go through them and see how Jainism can help us overcome these mental obstacles. The first one we talked about was fear-based obstacles, that is fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of irreversibility, fear of committing to the wrong path and wasting your time on it. Well, how can Jainism help us with these types of fears? Well, how about Anikantvad, right? The multiplicity of viewpoints. Well, when we realize that, there are actually multiple possible outcomes possible. Whatever the worst thing that you're thinking, people will laugh at me, this won't come out good, it's probably not going to happen, right? We can also let go of the idea that we have to foresee everything. Maybe it will turn out good, maybe it won't turn out good. And you can remind yourself that whatever you perceive as is very partial. A lot of people, especially young people, think that other people think about them a lot more than is real, right? Yeah, let's say you see something embarrassing happening to somebody. You might say, "Oh, that's sad," and you won't think about it ever again. And that person is constantly thinking, "Oh, what did they think about me?" Or "What did this person? I wonder what he thinks," or something like that. So.
One box from them.
Oh yeah. Can you give this to him? And so we can kind of let that stuff go. And so Jainism can help us overcome those fears. The next one we talked about was perfectionism, right? Not the fake kind of perfectionism, but the real kind that gets in your way, where I don't want to start this thing because it's not going to turn out how I wanted it, right? Or I don't want to, I don't have the ability to do this thing the way I want, so I'm not going to try it at all, right? How can Jainism help us with that one? Well, how about aparigraha, or non-attachment, right? Let's not be attached to the results, especially before we've even tried. Just because we do bad work doesn't mean we're a bad person. It just means we did bad work, that's all, right? And so don't be attached to how things look at you, how things will reflect on you, especially if it's your first time doing something. Nobody will expect a finished product that's the result of a professional when it's your first time trying something. That is, let's take out our ownership of the outcome. The outcome will be whatever the outcome will be. We don't have to identify with that. So, what we can do is we can write a version 1.0 of the document that we wanted to do. Let's say your goal was to write something, right? And you're afraid of how people might think about it, or it's not going to be good enough. Well, allow yourself to write a non-finished version and then say you'll go back and clean it up. Another thing to do is to set a timer to do something and then stop when the timer ends. No matter how bad it is or how good it is, if you have this kind of goal in mind, just set a timer to work on it, and however much you've got done is however much you got done. Number 3 was executive dysfunction. That is, when you have trouble initiating tasks, you know you want to do that thing. You know you have to do it, but you just can't do it. You just can't get started. So what might Jainism say about that one? Well, how about ahimsa? So does ahimsa mean don't be violent toward yourself? Or does it only mean not to be violent toward other people? He said both? What?
Yeah, both.
Both? Right, both. That is, don't be harmful to yourself. When we have executive dysfunction, we add this layer on top that says, why can't I get started? What's stopping me? And we start to loathe ourselves and start to think that something's wrong with us. And this negative self-talk is himsa. And we want to practice ahimsa, right? So we're not going to punish ourselves for being stuck or for not understanding why we can't do something. One thing we can do also is we can do what's called body doubling. That is, it helps to work near somebody. So if somebody else is doing work, then we want to do work because we're all doing work together, right? So get somebody in your office or get somebody on your desk next to you and they're doing work, or go to a coffee shop. Everybody's doing work there. And then you oh yeah, I need to start on my stuff. Look, everybody's doing work, right? Another thing that might help is to go through a checklist of things you should do. And so you're just working on the checklist. You're not stumbling over yourself. You're not, trying to get things done. It's just the next thing on the list you do. That helps for some people. Another thing to do is to start moving. Okay, it helps us to get things done, especially when we don't know why we can't, if we start moving. So we chew gum, we go for a walk, we get a stand-up desk and we stand up and we start working, So starting to move will help. Questions or comments? The next one we talked about was procrastination. It's slightly different from executive dysfunction because procrastination, we're avoiding a feeling. Because when we start to work on that goal, it makes us feel bad. Usually because we didn't do it before. And when we start, we're like, I should have done this a long time ago. So we're avoiding a particular feeling in procrastination. So how can Jainism help us with that? Excuse me. Well, Jainism is all about combating feelings. That's what we talked about for 90% of our time together, right? Usually it's because it makes me feel bad because I didn't get it done before. That's your ego talking, right? Or you don't start something that you've been procrastinating because you're like, why do I want to do this? Why do I have to do this? I shouldn't have to do this. Well, that's maybe your anger talking too sometimes. And so we know how to deal with those, right? We know our weapons against anger, ego, deceit, greed. Those are actually, believe it or not, the primary reasons that we procrastinate. It's not because we're lazy or something like that. We're avoiding feelings. So the things we can do to help us are, in addition to our Jain principles, we notice when we have those feelings. A lot of times we don't know that we're avoiding things because of feelings, so we notice that we have those feelings. We can make the task safer for us to do, make the goal safer for us to do. Don't do it with anybody around. Don't do it with the people that will be affected nearby. And another trick is to also just devote a certain amount of time to it. If you're procrastinating doing something, say, okay, I'll just work on it for 10 minutes and whatever I get done, And so that way we can kind of get over these negative feelings. Questions or comments about that? Excuse me. All right, the next one we talked about was identity conflicts, right? That is, people like me don't do things like that, or I'm not the type of person that does that thing, or things like that. What Jane principle might help us overcome this mental obstacle? Okay, how about the Jane principle of impermanence or transitoriness, right? Well, you're a soul, right? You're not a body. You have identified yourself as, well, a father, a mother, um, but you identify yourself by your work, or maybe you identify yourself as different things in your life, right? But you're none of those things, right? You're a soul, right? And so if you treat yourself as a soul, you may be able to get around this identity conflict where, oh, people like me don't do that. And then you talk yourself out of accomplishing your goal or being successful at your goal. So your current identity is like clothes that you wear. You can take them on and put them off according to your needs, right? And it's transitional, right? So that's why it helps to sometimes borrow the identity of somebody else. Somebody that does accomplish those things that you want to accomplish. The next one we talked about was learned helplessness. That is, you give up because you have a low expectation of success. Or you've tried it before and you failed at the goal. And so you don't try it again, even though it's a goal that you want. Come on in. Hi, come on in. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. Hi, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Today we're talking about how Jainism can help us overcome the mental obstacles that prevent us from reaching our goals. And one of those mental obstacles is learned helplessness. That is, you say to yourself, I've tried this thing, I failed it before, it's not for me, I'm not going to do it. So what Jain principle can help us there? Well, remember the theory of karma, right? You work on your karma little by little, right? You're not going to get rid of it all at once, right? It's through your own self-effort or purusha that you work on it. And so, taking that into consideration, let's measure our effort, not our success, right? At accomplishing this goal. Say, well, I worked for X amount of hours on this goal. That's a win, even though I didn't accomplish it last time, right? Other things we can do are break the goals into micro goals, and you can track your effort and change your metrics, right? Change the things that you track. Instead of tracking whether you accomplish the goal, track how far you are and how much you did, or how many hours you worked, or how many sessions you put into the goal. The next one we talked about was cognitive overload. That is the problem of choice. When we have too many variables, too much input, and then that stops us from reaching our goals. Okay, so I've trained you that if you don't say anything, then I'll keep on going. But this time I want you to say something, so I'm not going to keep on going. I'll give you a hint. It's one of the same ones we talked about. What Jain principle can help us overcome cognitive overload?
Like too many choices, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think we talked about it last time that we should. Parigraha kind?
That's right.
Yeah.
Aparigraha, right? The detachment, right? You got to release the need that you have to consider everything before committing to a course of action, before starting to work on your goals, right? You don't need to know everything. You just need to start working, right? And you can choose paths that are good enough, okay? And that especially is true with regards to Jainism. People often, don't start putting Jainism into their lives because they don't know where to start. They don't know how to start. But the advice is always start anywhere. Just start anywhere. Start with whatever you're interested in and learn about that and implement that into your life. Right? The next one we talked about was all or nothing thinking. That is, it's kind of like perfectionism, right? Where if you're on this goal, let's say you're going to the gym 3 times a week, and then one week you get sick and you kind of miss it. And then that results in you're never going back, right? For some reason, you didn't forgive yourself and you didn't say, oh yeah, I was sick, no problem, I'll start again. It won't be a problem. No, it's like, I missed that time and my calendar got screwed up and I wasn't able to put it in my phone that I like to do that. And now I'm never going back. Now it takes you just as much time to get back on the wagon as it did to start going to the gym in the first place, right? So this kind of all or nothing thinking. So we can replace that with this concept of good enough we've already talked about, right? It's good enough. Whatever you can do is good enough. We're not the perfect, vegetarians. Sometimes we eat onions and potatoes and garlic, right? But it's good enough. Whatever we can do is good enough. And some people can't even do that much, right? And so when you think about your goals, especially if you've never done them before and it's something new that you want to do, it's okay to be good enough. It's okay to be bad too. It's not your job. A lot of times these goals aren't part of your job, or they're kind of personal things you want to do. And so it's okay to be good enough. I give you permission to be good enough. How about that?
I disagree with that a little bit.
Yeah?
So if you just say it's good enough, but then you're basically never getting out of your life in birth and death, right? So then, how is that good enough?
The difference is following through. Because once it's good enough and you've started, then you must refine and become better and better.
So you're basically saying you can't always be in it's good enough state, right?
Correct. Yeah. After it's good enough, and after you've started being good enough, then you have to refine and become better and better and better. So if we talk about going to the gym, right? Well, yeah, you're going to the gym 3 times a week. That's great. But you're half-assing it, so then nothing happens, right? You got to get better. I agree with you completely. If we talk about Jainism, yeah, okay, it's kind of good enough that I opened the book and I learned a little bit about this, but then I have to keep going.
So every day you create a new goal. Every time you reach a goal, then create the next goal.
Absolutely,
Kind of like
absolutely. Accomplishing things is like a muscle. You want to keep practicing it. And once you've accomplished things, you're not done. You set yourself new things to accomplish. Excuse me. The next one we talked about was low self-trust. You don't trust yourself. You don't believe in yourself. You have low self-esteem. And this stops you from accomplishing your goals. Excuse me. What Jain principle can help us here?
Is that the opposite of having ego?
Yeah, I could see that. But it's debilitating. Instead of having humility, then you have too much humility where you don't do anything. You don't accomplish things. One thing that might help us is having the right faith. So samyak Jnana, darshan, and charitra, right faith, right knowledge, and right actions. It's the other order. When you have the right faith, you know you're on the right path, right? And so if you can practice having the right faith, that includes having the right faith in yourself, right? And so that might help you if you find yourself in this situation of not a lot of confidence, right? You can break goals into little chunks, which we've talked about. And as you accomplish those things, it'll be like a boulder rolling down the hill. You'll start to accomplish more and more, and you'll trust yourself more and more.
Is faith the right English term, or is it perception is the closer?
That would be a better term, perception. The next mental block we talked about was stress. What can Jainism teach us about stress?
Everything is transient. There's no point stressing.
Right. That's a great one. Excuse me. Transitoriness.
Sorry.
The things that are usually causing us stress are usually temporary, right? And we've been through a lot of stresses before, and so we have experience with them, and so they don't stress us out. But then all of a sudden, when it's a novel point of stress, we freak out, right? And it causes us more stress than normal. So that's great. I like that one.
But I don't know how to implement that in real life.
How do you implement noticing that everything is transitory into your life? Do we have any help? Has anybody successfully done this?
It's very hard, even though you know it. It's hard at that moment.
Right. So the first thing to do is to not overreact in the moment. And so in order to do that, we have to control especially our anger. But our anger, ego, deceit, greed, the four kashayas. And who remembers our weapons against the four kashayas? Forgiveness battles anger.
Humility for ego.
Humility battles ego.
Truthfulness is for the deceit.
Truthfulness will battle deceit. Straightforwardness. And charity battles greed, right? And so when we live our life constantly battling these things, one of the things that will happen is that we will not react right away when we have new stressors in our life. And so in order to make sure that we understand that, well, everything passes and everything is permanent, how about we try implementing the sleep on it task, right? When we have a new stressor, let's sleep on it. Let's let it be for a little bit while we think about it, and not react right away, right? And see how often it goes away, or it doesn't become a problem, or it becomes a problem we can easily handle. That might be one way we can implement that into our life and to make it a part of our life, right? We'll try the sleep on it plan.
I think we talked about it like a couple classes ago with you. It's not the one stress that matters. It's like a pile up of a stress, and then you
Right.
burst out. And it's like a volcano, right? That time it gets more difficult because you are just compiling on like one thing at a time, and then it gets very difficult to manage. One at a time, yes, we can let it go.
Right.
Also repetitive, right? Like say you're
Yes.
in an office, you know that this colleague you are having issue with, it's not like you let go today and then tomorrow he's not there.
Right.
Again, it's going to be the same thing. So it's repetitive too.
Right.
So what to do in that situation, that also comes. So that stress doesn't go away because we know that even though I let go right now, it's the same person again is there. He's going to create the same issue or something like that. So that stress always stays right then.
Yeah. So the great thing about a repetitive problem is that we know it's coming, so we know we have to tackle it. So we can make a plan to do that, right? And so it's actually an opportunity for us to keep on working on our impermanent strategy, our sleep on it task, right? And if we're dealing with multiple stressors that combine and overload, it means we're not actually dealing with the individual ones. If we explode because of multiple stressors that we've been dealing with, we haven't actually dealt with them because we've let them add up, right? So it's very true that we should deal with them individually before they overwhelm us. Other questions or comments?
And I guess for that we can follow that there is like kal kare so aaj whatever that his saying is, if we follow that, like take care of some stuff if you can right away.
Right.
Like sometimes I have it, okay, it's a little complicated, I will deal with it later. but that letter never comes, and then it becomes really stressful.
Oh, I see.
Procrastination.
Procrastination.
Right. And so, excuse me. Yes, a lot of these dovetail with each other. Yeah. Did that help at all?
Yeah, I'm also thinking like, how do you sort of, train your mind in a way that you don't start thinking about the invariables that are not in your control, right? Every time so I don't know if I can generalize this or not, but most of us are worrying about things that are coming. We don't know how they are going to span out yet. But even then, we're just constantly thinking whether this would happen, not happen, would I be able to do it, not do it, and it just creates like anxiety.
Right.
So, how do you tell your mind to stabilize that it is okay to have whatever you have and then just see what's coming?
So you do it by focusing on your breath. So, and then once you focus on your breath enough, you'll have a realization that your awareness is different from your thoughts. They're two different things. And that your awareness is constantly being captured by your thoughts. And once you have that realization, you'll be able to let go of the future that is trying to enslave your awareness in the present. That sounds fantastical. I know that. But it's true. And so we should try to test it out right now. Let us take 1 minute and let us try to see if we can determine that our awareness is different from our thoughts. Okay? So, close your eyes. Okay? And take deep breaths in and deep breaths out. Notice when a breath starts and when it stops. Notice that your brain is feeding you thoughts and you have to let them go in order to focus on your breath. Notice when your thoughts intrude on your awareness. Okay, you can open your eyes. Did anybody notice that they had a thought and they had to let it go in order to return their awareness back to their breath? You kind of noticed it? That's good. So if you do that enough, okay, what happens is you will realize that there are two things. There's one is your awareness is provided by your soul. And second are thoughts that are provided by your body, particularly your brain. And your brain doesn't like it when it can't enslave your awareness, right? So it will constantly feed you new thoughts. Oh, that one didn't work. Let's try this one. Oh, that one didn't work. Let's try this one. That one wasn't enslaving enough. Let's have this fearful thought, right? And that will arrest your attention, this anxiety about the future. Then you start worrying about it, and your brain is very happy because it has enslaved your attention. And so once you realize that you can let them go at any time you want, that will start helping you with your anxiety for the future, because you won't let those thoughts about the future enslave your current awareness. So if you keep practicing that, that will help you. And I'm glad that you, in the 1 minute that we did it, I'm glad that you felt something. Other questions or comments? Okay, so the next one we talked about was the lack of emotional reward. A lot of times, especially with long-term goals, we don't commit to them or we don't do them because there's not an emotional reward associated with working on it. We worked on it for an hour and nothing happened. We're this much closer to accomplishing a goal that we're this far away from, and we felt like we wasted an hour, right? So we felt like we wasted a day. We felt like we wasted a week. And the problem is, the hardest goal is going to moksha, and that's what our goal is, and we don't even know if we're soul, and we don't even know if what we're supposed to be doing is working, right? So how can Jainism help us with this lack of emotional reward? Oh, yeah, so let's practice santosh, or contentment, right? That's our enemy against greed, not charity. Sorry, I misspoke earlier. Be happy in the amount, be satisfied with the amount that you did accomplish, despite not achieving an emotional reward, right? We can say, be happy about the discipline we showed to work on the thing without the reward, right? We're not children. We can work on things without having a piece of candy at the end, right? We can notice, any part that we did accomplish, even if it's a little bit. And we can detach and the joy or the emotions that we feel from the outcome of the work, right? The work is good because the work is good, not because we get a reward or praise at the end of it. The last one is shame. A lot of times we don't accomplish our goal because of shame loops. We will make a mistake, and then we'll get on ourselves for making a mistake, and that'll make us make another mistake, and then we'll be in this negative spiral. One thing we can do, how Jainism can help us, is we can forgive ourselves, right? We can honestly forgive ourselves. We can move forward without attachment, without punishing ourselves. We can acknowledge that we make a mistake. We can forgive ourselves. We can ask for forgiveness from other people, right? Whom we may have let down by not accomplishing our goal. And then we can help ourselves in that way. So questions or comments about anything we talked about? So one of the things that's hard is, it's hard enough for us to do it, but how do we teach our children not to be debilitated by these mental obstacles? There's a couple different ways, but they all involve doing things together with your child. So for fear-based things, you can run practice attempts where nothing counts with your child, right? Because they're afraid of starting. Well, let's just do a practice run, right? We can praise their attempting to accomplish goals, not accomplishing them, right? Praise their effort, don't praise the outcome.
But here I notice one thing in every kid is they are very scared of failure. I
Right.
don't know why, but how they teach in the school or whatever it is. But all of them are scared of trying new things and failure, and they don't want to look bad in front of everyone. I don't know why that thing is. I see it in every kid actually, not only. But
That's true. It's the same reasons. One, bad feelings. It feels bad to fail, so they don't do it. The reason it feels bad, they think it makes them less of a person. They're afraid of what their friends will think. They're afraid of not being perfect at everything. We must teach our children to fail. We must put them in positions to fail. They must fail in order to, and you're doing the right thing as a parent. If you put your child in a position to fail harmlessly without consequence, that way when it does happen and there's a little bit of a consequence attached, they're resilient enough to overcome that and it won't be debilitating for them. We will provide them a sandbox in which to fail. It is very important that you do that.
So what happens after they fail? How do you help them to get back on the track, or how do they get back on their track?
Excuse me.
Just an example. If they had an assignment due, they didn't do it on time, major grade, they fail, whatever. How do they get back on track? Like, I'm sure they feel bad about it themselves if they're a good student, like, hey, I messed up. How do they get back?
Well, then we talk about implementing a reminder system so it doesn't happen again. We talk about how to accomplish it for next time. We walk them through the emotions that they're feeling, right? We teach them that these emotions will go away and tomorrow it will be better and we'll learn how to deal with it. Those are the things we do.
So I was listening something yesterday. I don't know whether you guys know Chamath or not. He's a big, yeah. So he was saying that I failed too many times and that happened. It's good, but the only problem when I was failing, I didn't know what name I should give it. Should give to my emotions. And when he learned to give a name to the emotions, then he was able to, understand it properly, that I'm feeling right now dull. Then I give whatever the name to my emotions, and that's
Right.
what I'm feeling right now and why I'm feeling right now. So he was able to then put it on a paper that this is what happens, and then I get this emotion. So he was able to name it. So he went through almost a few months therapy, and then he understood his emotions, and then he was able to capture pretty good.
That's great.
Yeah, so as far as I know the emotion I'm feeling and I have named it, I know it's going to get triggered when this happens. So I already then start working on it.
That's great.
Because sometimes you don't realize why that's happening, right? It's just an emotion you just feel. You don't know the
You don't know
root
what
cause
to
of
do
it.
or
You just
what-
blame
yeah.
it to whatever just happened, but it may not be the real cause. Real root cause could be
Yeah.
something different.
Right. And that's why we live a mindful life. So we know what is going on in our head. And to name something is very powerful, as you
Very
mentioned.
powerful, yeah.
If we can name something, we have a power over it. We have a mastery over it. If we can write it down, that means, well, if we can write down a problem, we can write down a solution, right? And so it's when we don't know that it's a problem. And it's when we don't know that it is up to us to interrogate ourselves until we do know. And that is what living an examined life is. That is what living a mindful life is.
So one question is, I know in our Jainism, I don't think so much mention about the chakras, the 7 chakras we have in our body.
Right.
Does anywhere in Jainism has because right now I'm taking one course which mentions about 7 chakra, and a lot of people have done it, so I don't know, but I've never heard about anything in Jainism.
So the closest kind of avenue to go for is the bodies. So look for the different types of bodies that we have. We have like a Vedic body, an Avadic body, things like that. So your homework is to look in the book and to look at how many types of bodies we have and report back.
Okay.
That's your homework for this week.
I think it's also because the soul doesn't have chakras, right? So it's conflicting with the idea of Jainism, right? Because the body's different from the soul. So whatever the
Right,
body
but
thing is-
but to create a lot of awareness of soul, like say I'm going through a lot of emotions all the time and this and that, but if I have a awareness, automatically you reach to a stage where then you are more motivated towards soul. The purpose is that only, to activate your chakras, that you feel that there is a soul and you go towards it. That's the purpose. It's not for the body. No, to realize and to stay in that all the time, we have to activate our chakras. That's what it is. So it's just for awareness of soul only. Yeah.
Other questions or comments about anything we talked about today?
So on the letting your child to fail,
Yes.
we live in a very competitive world, right? Not
Absolutely.
saying, how do you practically tell them, maybe pass on that you will only have limited opportunities to fail. Assignment is a day to day, that's fine. We've all done it at some point in time.
Right.
But how should they know that this doesn't become a practice and they have to, I just don't want them to feel consoled for, everything that they are failing at. How do you make sure that you're passing the right thing. And it's not just for kids, even as adults. Like sometimes you're like, okay, I failed at this, but it's okay, there's only so much I can do. How do you get through that?
So you teach your children by modeling it for them. You allow them to see you fail and how you handle it, and they will model their behavior after that. And we have to be more open with our kids. A lot of times we have to be like, oh yeah, I tried this thing and it didn't work and I feel bad about it, and while it's happening to us, right? And so if we allow our kids to see us fail and bounce back, then they will model their behavior after ours.
And I guess even consequences in school, teacher will, of course, let student fail, but she will provide them consequences. And then when they go through that pain, they realize this was not this is not what I wanted, but I have to go through this. So that painful feeling, next time when it happens, they feel like, oh, it was not fun. So they may make sure that they will accomplish what they will try hard for the next.
And that's resilience. That's what we want to teach them.
But we want them to fail as many as time they want. That happens because if they don't fail and once they grow, then it's very hard for them to understand and fail because they are already adult. So I tell my kids that, hey, if you fail for something or you don't do good, don't worry about it. And then I have been supporting them. Then they are like, okay, I'm failed, but that's okay. I'll do better on this. So, based on my experience, when I was in India, my parents were never worried. Like, okay, that's okay, you failed, do it better. Definitely, it's not like, oh, this is good and all. No, they supported and then, okay, do better.
Right.
But yeah, I don't want to put the fear in them saying that, oh, you know what, if you fail, then it's not good for you and this is what it is and this is what, you failed. What did you do now? What did you learn out of it?
Right.
How you are going to avoid it? And next time, take care of it and then, go for the next thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I don't want to create any fear in the kids where they scared of fail. And especially, see, in this generation, everything fail, we connect with the money part or something we didn't do achievement.
Uh-huh.
So I don't feel that's the right kind of thinking we are creating, that hey, you achieved it, then you did it good. As far as you are living peaceful, moral and happy life, that's all I care about. I don't care about the achievements and the money part.
Right.
That will come automatically if you're good at all those things. So that's what I teach my kids now. So
All right, Arya came in, so it's time to look at Arya and realize that she's a soul that is perhaps older than our soul. And if we can't see that, then it's going to be very hard for us to see that a tree has a soul or an animal has a soul, right? It's just her body that looks young to us. She's not a young soul. Thank you so much for your time this week. I really appreciate that.
She got used to it now. She's like,
I
I'm
know.
this is what Dad is going to put on me. Thank you for the good class.
huh?
I think it was a lot. I think it was a very heavy class today.
So
A lot of different topics. Even though I have done it.